welcome to NTA Nationwide. I am Elizabeth Banu. Thank you for joining us. Kenyans today went to the polls to elect a new president that will run the affairs of the country for the next 5 years. Members of the parliament, county governors and ward representatives are also to be elected in the general election. Reports from across the East African countries say turnout was high as voters trooped to various polling units as early as possible to queue. Spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, Andrew Limo, says some of the polling stations opened late due to heavy rain that hampered its operations. There are more than 40,000 polling units in Kenya, and the Commission has made provision for the conduct of the election in all the stations. Incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta is seeking re-election after completing his first 5-year term. He's, however, been challenged by 7 other candidates, including the main opposition leader, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who is running for presidency for the 4th time. An outright winner in the first round requires more than 50% votes and 25% of the votes cast in at least 24 of the 47 counties. And about 20 million eligible Kenyans cast their votes in their county's high-stake general elections. Oku Ekpeyong in this special report reflects on the mood of Kenyans as they decide their fate.
Candidates are standing in the elections, including the incumbent Uhuru Kenyatta. Kenyatta is facing his long-term rival, Raila Odinga. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in a broadcast, appealed for calm and unity in the elections. Reports say the elections have so far been peaceful. There has also been a local mobilization among Kenyans on the need for all to turn up to cast their votes. Kenyans have been in long queues at night in anticipation to vote candidates of their choice. More than 150,000 security personnel have been deployed, with the police working hard to forestall the breakdown of order. The ruling coalition, known as the Jubilee Party, may have the ethnic edge. Uhuru Kenyatta is a Kikuyu and is running with William Ruto, his running mate, a Kalenjin by tribe. All of Kenya's presidents have hailed from either the majority Kikuyu or the smaller Kalenjin. Odinga's Luo, the second largest ethnic group, has yet to seize the top job. Odinga managed to rise to be Prime Minister after the 2007 election. Oku Ekpeyong, NTA News.
You can watch this news live online via the NTA mobile app, which you can download on your Android device at the Google Play Store or at the Apple Store if you use devices with iOS. Lagosians' attitude towards waste disposal. Jennifer brings us details of this and more. It's over to you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome to Lagos. The Senate Joint Committee on Land Transportation and that of local and foreign debt have reiterated commitments to ensuring that accountability in public expenditure is entrenched in the country. The legislature made this known while inspecting the ongoing project on standard gauge rail system in Lagos. Musa Toliat has the details.
The standard gauge is a widely used rail track gauge that accommodates high-speed trains across the world. In line with this, the federal government is making efforts to ensure efficient intermodal transport system for the country. A total sum of $5.851 billion loan was recently approved for the projects. The National Assembly, in line with its mandate to assess and monitor judicious utilization of the funds for the projects, informed the visit. The Senate committee team also inspected facilities at the construction company handling the standard gauge lines before proceeding to the site to assess progress of work on the project.
We've been given a deadline with which to report back to the Senate so that other conclusive parts of the foreign loan agreements can be sealed.
The necessary funds have been approved, and we have also learned that they are going to get 12 billion naira within the next 7 days. and there is no excuse for this project to stop.
Contractor handling the standard gauge project gave assurances that the project will meet the yearnings and expectations of Nigerians on rail system modernization.
We have nothing, no excuses but to deliver the project to the satisfaction of the client.
The rail system project is being built in segments, and the first phase between Lagos and Ibadan is under construction. In Lagos, Musa Toliad.
Negative attitude towards environmental protection has been identified as a major contributor to the widespread indiscriminate disposal of waste in several parts of the Lagos metropolis. Abdusalam Olawumi takes up the issue.
Dumping of refuse by the roadside by Lagos residents have been identified as one of the major problems facing our environment. This indiscriminate waste disposal is further compounded by those who patronize cart pushers in some parts of the state. Violation of laws on environmental sanitation and inadequate refuse bins, according to some residents, are also some of the factors.
The PSB, they are no more working, so people are just dropping in everywhere they see. So if the PSB, if they are working at the appropriate time, so there won't be any cause for people dropping the office on the gutters anymore.
When the refuse are not quickly removed, they end up in drainages, thereby causing blockage.
When little rain fall outside there, it will pack everything. And because the channel is not through here, so it causes the blockage.
The drainage system is causing flaws. Yeah, it's not proper at all. Anybody that they saw anybody picking, dropping of refuse here, so the person should have to pay for the penalty of it.
They will come and pick it up very soon.
Residents have, however, called on the government agencies responsible to ensure adequate enforcement of environmental laws to check indiscriminate dumping of refuse across the states.
Still on environmental matters, Cleaner Lagos Initiative, a major reform of Governor Akinwumi Ambode's administration to revolutionize the solid waste management sector in line with international best practices, will commence in the first week of September. The governor, who spoke at a media sensitization workshop in Lagos, said the initiative would endanger a sustainable and healthier environment. Nosa Usula reports.
Governor Ambode, who was represented by the Commissioner for the Environment, Dr. Babatunde Adejare, said all is now set for the eventual takeoff with the passage of the Environmental Management and Protection Law 2017, the concession of residential waste collection to a reputable and competent multinational waste services company, as well as the transformation of the Kick Against Indiscipline Brigade to a more civil Lagos State Environmental Sanitation Corps.
Don't dump irresponsibly. Bag your refuse, put it in front of your house. I assure you, this government of His Excellency Akinwumi Ambode will come. We will take them.
The governor also added that the initiative would not only change the solid waste management system in the state, but would also engender a sustainable, cleaner and healthier environment for residents, just as he assured that the people would be better for it.
We will see the new thing about how His Excellency wants to clean Lagos and make it a more beautiful and livable environment.
The governor concluded that the workshop was necessary to deepen the understanding of members of the media and put the CLI in proper perspective with regards to its modus operandi and the expected benefits to residents. In Lagos, Nosa Osula, NTA News.
Those are the top stories at this hour from Lagos. Back to Elizabeth for more on Nationwide.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now, we earlier told you that Kenyans went to the polls today to elect a new president that will govern the country for the next 5 years. And joining me via Skype is Wanja Mungai, a journalist from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for joining us.
Greetings from Nairobi, Kenya.
This appears to be one of the most tense elections in Kenya. Can you tell us, how did it go?
President is going to be either the incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta or his long-term rival Raila Amolo Odinga.
Oh, okay. Like I earlier asked, how did the election go today? Can you to the polls. We all heard that, and would like to know, how did the election go?
Boundaries Commission CEO, and you could see that on your screen, the long queues and the mammoth crowds on the polling stations. And so far, it has been peaceful.
And then, how soon do you think the results will start coming in?
The report from the CEO, Mr. Ezra Chiloba, he reported that the results are going to start relaying immediately after the voting from the various polling stations. But that is definitely not the presidential result. It's for the other minor posts like the MCA, the women representatives, and for the presidential and the gubernatorial and senatorial, that could be in the next 2 or 3 days. And according to the Kenyan Constitution, the presidential elections are supposed to be relayed at least 4 days after the voting.
Now, how would you compare the last elections and that of today? Are there improvements in the conduct of today's election?
There have been improvements compared to the 2013 presidential elections, rather voting process. And one of the notable changes or improvements is in the number of polling stations. The IEBC has established 40,884 polling stations across the country, compared to 2013's 30,000 polling stations. That definitely eases the voting process and the long queues that are normally there during voting days. And the other notable change is the digitalization of the process on the various levels. One is the registration during voting, where voters' biometrics are taken, and the third, sorry for that, and the other level is on the transmission. It's going to be digitally transmitted. And we also have a backup and a satellite to make sure that no interruptions take place. So it's definitely so different from 2013.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Wanja Mungai from Kenya. Now, moving on, as part of efforts, beg your pardon, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria is not only a compelling destination, but one that also deserves a fresh look by any serious entrepreneur willing to invest in Africa. Speaking at an interactive meeting with the Nigerian Initiative for Economic Development, the acting president assured that returns on investment in Nigeria can only go higher. State House correspondent Adam Musombo reports.
Participants at this forum, comprising Nigerian professionals in the diaspora and senior government officials, are here to exchange innovative ideas towards promoting investments and infrastructure in Nigeria as key to the nation's economic growth.
We'll be amazed that in the United States, a lot of Nigerians sit on great resources, their skill, their expertise, and we have many of them that are here today. They're looking forward, what can we do to help Nigeria?
Acting President Yemi Osinbajo was emphatic that Nigeria is the surest destination in Africa for business and investment. With her large population and size, the acting president maintained that there is no investment that will not yield profitable returns for such investors in Nigeria.
Anyone who doesn't invest in Nigeria, in 10 years' time, they'll be queried by their establishments or by their businesses that you just missed out on the best possible opportunity. The truth of the matter is that if you're really serious about investing in Africa, this is where you have to come to. This is a very, very, very good place to do business, and it's going to be a profitable place, and it will be very profitable for all of us.
Some ministers and other relevant government officials took turns to trade information on the abundant opportunities abound in the various economic sectors of the country waiting to be tapped.
The government is working synergistically to improve the economic environment and reposition the country for diversification and inclusive growth.
By the end of this year, we shall stop importing rice and begin to export rice.
We can make Nigeria a destination
for medical tourism, not only as a matter of national pride or national security, but also for economic reasons.
We just need to have foreign exchange away from oil. Where will this come from? We need to grow real sector output in manufacturing, agribusiness, industrial oil and gas, solid minerals.
The Nigerian Initiative for Economic Development provides a strong platform for collaboration between Nigeria and major international investors towards promoting investment in the nation's infrastructure development. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
As part of efforts to promote economic growth, the federal government has lifted the administrative suspension placed on processing pioneer status incentive application following the conclusion of critical reforms to the incentive regime. Kolo Mohammed reports that the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Enelama, while announcing this, says the federal government is determined to encourage investment in critical sectors of the economy.
Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act No. 22 of 1971 provides a tax holiday for the pioneer status incentive grants to companies making investments in qualifying industries and products from payment of company income tax for an initial period of 3 years, which can be extended for 1 or 2 additional years. However, following a perceived abuse of the process, an administrative suspension was placed on it to allow for comprehensive review and reform of the incentive regime aimed at increasing transparency and process efficiency, better articulating the expected economic benefits, and improving the federal government's ability to measure the impact of the incentive regime.
Following this reform process, I formally announced a lifting of the administrative suspension on processing pioneer status incentive applications, which is really the main purpose of this gathering today. That means from now on, the processing of the applications will restart in earnest. The application guidelines and list of pioneer industries and products will be made available on both the websites of the Ministry and the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission.
The new pioneer status incentive has been put forward in line with the federal government's economic recovery and growth plan. In Abuja, Kolo Mohammed, NTA News.
The Presidency has formally reacted to the protest march embarked upon by a pressure group calling for the return or resignation of President Muhammadu Buhari for being away from the country for over 90 days. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, who spoke to State House correspondents, said the people only exercised their constitutional rights, which the government fully respects. He, however, said demanding the President's return or resignation by the people is stepping outside the laws of the country.
Anyone conversant with the constitution of the country will have noticed, would have seen that the President has complied 100% with the requirements of the constitution of this country. He has handed over power to the Vice President in line with the constitution, and the Vice President is carrying out with the affairs of the country, is undertaking activities of government in line with the constitution in a way that the President has himself given words of commendation. So the President has not breached any law. What he has done is perfectly in line with the constitution of this country. And if people are looking for things to say, I think they should do their research very well.
He further stated that the government is busy with the reconstruction and rehabilitation of infrastructure and all over the country, creating jobs for the unemployed, as well as redeeming the country's image globally in its fight against corruption, and will not, therefore, be distracted by this or any other groups. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has commended the management of the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority for its contributions towards growing some critical sectors in the nation. The minister stated this when he visited the authority in Abuja. Anthony Forson reports.
The minister, who said his visit to the authority is to enable him have a first-hand knowledge
of the activities of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. He said it is gratifying to note that the authority has become a key player in the current development drive.
Definitely, I think you've chosen the most important areas of intervention, which is agriculture, infrastructure, and healthcare. Healthcare is also so important. If you can save Nigeria $1 billion in foreign exchange, because most countries today are building their economy on health tourism.
The minister equally gave the authority a pat on the back for the role it has played in crashing the price of fertilizer in the country.
Be able to demystify the fertilizer conundrum. When you hear the amount of money that has been paid or invested in fertilizers in this country, and the kind of scandal that has, accompanied fertilizer, contracts.
The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, Uche Oji, had earlier briefed the minister on some of its achievements, which include the reviving of 11 out of the 28 fertilizer plants that were non-functional.
The first takeaway is that we have delivered up to 6 million bags of NPK 2010-10 fertilizer at 30% below market price without subsidy. In the process of that, we have also created over 50,000 jobs.
The authority, Uche Oji said, has a total equity of $1.50 billion with 3 distinct funds for specific development objectives. They are the Stabilization Fund, Future Generation Fund, and Nigeria Infrastructure Fund. The Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund is the 3rd largest in sub-Saharan Africa after Botswana and Angola. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
More youth embrace fadama farming in Jigawa, just as NBC boss visits Kaduna ahead of digital switchover. Zulay has these stories and more from Kaduna. It's over to you, Zulay.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good evening and welcome to Kaduna. All is now set to roll out digital switchover of television transmission from analog in Kaduna. Director General National Broadcasting Commission, Ishaq Modibo Kau, stated this while assessing the level of preparedness of the exercise at Pinnacle Transmission Site, one of the licensed companies handling it. Eugenia Okweze reports.
Digitization is the process of changing from analog to digital television broadcasting. It is the current trend in broadcasting in Nigeria and the world over, as it enables consumers to enjoy a wider variety of shows on multiple channels. The International Telecommunication Union gave Nigeria up to June 2017 to switch over from analog broadcasting to digital. It is the move to comply with this directive that necessitated the visit of the DG NBC to the transmission site.
And all of us have been impressed at the quality that has been installed here. So I think this gives us a lot of optimism that we're having the platform for us to be able to do digital switchover in Kaduna State.
Technical operators at the site speak on the digitization process.
We're ready in advance of everybody else, right? We've got the system, we've organised the system. It's only a question of rolling it out at the discretion of NBC.
As it is, we're up, set and running. We're just doing test transmission. The Harris Gateshead representative is around to commission to make sure everything is ready.
From Kaduna, the DG moves to Gombe, Kwara, Osun, Delta, and Enugu on the same mission. In Kaduna, Eugenia Ukweze, NTA News.
The national president of Izala movement, Sheikh Abdullahi Balalo, says the organization will collaborate with government and other non-governmental organizations to address the issue of street begging in northern Nigeria. He stated this at a lecture in Kaduna organized by Al Ihsan Foundation, Kaduna. Ahmed Umar Kudang has the details.
Al-Majri system of education is a long practice in northern Nigeria that exposes many children to slavery and other forms of abuse. Although Islamic education is compulsory for every Muslim child, some believe that the Al-Majri system is not the best way of acquiring Islamic knowledge. Speaking at the lecture, Sheikh Abdullahi Balalau said Izala movement in Nigeria has established vocational centers across the country to train youth on many skills with a view to making them more productive for a better society.
If we take the skill acquisition and other relevant areas, that we will collaborate with them to see that, inshallah, we will partner with them, we will support them so that they can reach peak.
National Secretary of the movement, Sheikh Kabir Haruna Gombe, advised wealthy Muslims to assist in propagating Islam as well as helping the needy. Al-Ihsan Foundation was established in the year 2000 to render services to humanity.
We have recorded a lot of successes, but the one that I am really proud of is the rehabilitation of our youth, the ones that are into drugs. It was a difficult task. We challenged ourselves. Alhamdulillah, we trained about 70 of them.
More than 10 students are currently studying in universities and other tertiary institutions, courtesy of the foundation. In Kaduna, Ahmad Umar Kudang, NT News.
300 youths who keyed into the Fadama Graduate Unemployed Youths and Women Support Program in Jigawa State received certificate of attendance, having completed 2 weeks of intensive training. The training focuses on key areas of agribusiness, management, contract negotiations, among others. Habibu Hassan, report. Husseini, I beg your pardon.
The Fadama Guys program is a federal government initiative supported by World Bank to create employment opportunities to the teeming youth in the country. Jigawa State Governor, represented by the Speaker State House of Assembly Alhaji Idris Isa, said the program was designed to expose the participants into technical and practical skills which will enhance their competitiveness in agricultural businesses.
We will make sure that the fisheries utilize the support given to them, and our government will further assist them in their various agricultural establishments.
National Coordinator for the Ministry of Additional Finance, Mr. Tao Adeomi, represented by Yakub Ibrahim Wambai, said Jigawa State is among the states selected for the pilot program. He appreciated the support of Jigawa State government throughout the training exercise. Some of the beneficiaries pledged commitment to utilize their skills and financial support for them to be self-reliant.
We'll be happy to have it and make sure we utilize it very well, and we'll make sure that we expand everything that we are given and make a good use of it.
The youth are to be supported with grant to venture into agri-businesses. From Duse, Habib Hussein, NTA News.
There is a renewed effort by the Kaduna State government to complete the trailer park at Maraba Jos to stop the age-long phenomenon of parking haulage vehicles and petrol tankers causing a menace along the highway. Austin Ayobe, who visited Maraba Jos community, reports that residents say they cannot wait to see the completion of the project.
Passing through Maraban Jos in Kaduna State anytime, any day is a nightmare to motorists. This is because of the large number of tankers and trucks within the area. So it is a nightmare to residents of the area who say they always live in fear, with cases of accidents recorded almost daily.
They park anyhow. Government should help us. This parking is causing serious accident here.
Though the federal government had attempted building haulage parks at some flashpoints in the past, with Kaduna State to have such built at Maraban Jos and the other at Tafa along Kaduna Abuja Road, such effort never paid off, as the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, had to abandon the project due to inadequate funding. Even though the perimeter fencing of the parks completed, major infrastructural facilities such as security posts, hospital, hotels, convenience, among others, are not in place, which made it impossible for tanker drivers to move in. Now the administration of Governor Nasir Hamid El-Rufai has awarded the project with a contractor mobilized to site. Effort to speak to the contractor to ascertain when the project will be completed failed. As he said, government is planning to officially flag off the project. It is hoped that upon completion of the trailer park, motorists plying the road and residents of Maraban community will have relief. From Maraban Jos in Kaduna, I'm Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
And that's our beat from here. We're back to Elizabeth in Abuja for the rest of Nationwide.
Thank you, Zuli. Now, having secured overwhelming support for the two chambers of the 8th National Assembly for the passage of 2 bills on local government autonomy, the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NULGE, is turning its attention to states to enlist their support for the bills to be passed into law. President of the association, Ibrahim Khalil, at a media briefing in Abuja says the abolition of the joint local government account, local government caretaker administration, is the way to go.
Our hope is that the State Houses of Assembly will this time around not disappoint majority of Nigerians whose joy at the passage of the bills echoed across the country by mustering the necessary conviction to likewise vote overwhelmingly for autonomy of local government.
Comrade Ibrahim Khalil says the union has started negotiations with state governments to support the bill in the ongoing constitution amendment process. You're watching NTA Nationwide. We now take a break to bring you some messages. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
From what we have seen, we have the capacity which we can rapidly develop or feed in ourselves. If we don't import rice, we stop importing corn and other grains, Nigeria will have plenty of money to invest into developing industries, especially manufacturing, textiles and so on, and develop iron and steel, and complement the infrastructure development. So really, the opportunities are virtually limitless, and we are very, very aware of this, and we are prepared to exploit it to the fullest.
Media reporters with hate speech and national development on the front banner this week on NTA Tuesday Live. Tuesday promises to be incisive, informative, and educative. Join us.
National Council for Arts and Culture, Abuja presents 10th African Arts Crafts Expo, AFAC Expo 2017, the biggest arts and crafts expo in Africa. Theme, Nigerian crafts, the untapped treasure. Date, 27th August to 17th September 2017. Venue, Arts and Crafts Village, beside Sheraton Hotel and Yaradua Center, Abuja. Time, 9 a.m. daily. AFAC presents a unique platform for artists, crafts dealers, manufacturers, and other stakeholders to buy, sell, and promote products from Nigeria and other African countries. For more information, please call Chinwe on 0803-321-7724, Gerald on 0802-3345-301. National Council for Arts and Culture, our pride. Otumba Olusegun Wonshewe, Director General, announcement.
This week, your rib-cracking comedy, Professor John Bull, takes a swipe at how we think we belong among the human race while others do not belong.
Albinos, a hunchback, and everyone else in their category. Anywhere they enter, there's bad luck.
Simply because they possess certain genetic differences from the majority.
What do you want? I want to buy banana. Please go.
Why we all feel pain, joy, and human blood flows in all of us.
Granny Pepper went to your shop. It's a restaurant. Yeah. Any naming ceremony names you want to give to it, give to it. I does not care.
Keep a date with Professor John Bull in this episode titled Not One of Us.
So these people not give the work.
They said the post is no longer vacant.
Over and out. Brought to you by Glow,
the largest data network. Glow Unlimited.
This is The Place.
This is where you make that bold move.
This is where it all happens.
This is where dreams are made. Join us every Sunday from 6:30 p.m. on NTA and Star Times. Be part of Nigeria's biggest game show event.
Give and take.
Win big. Live your dreams.
The power to win is within.
Oh, and she does it. Oh, she looks so terrific.
Second goal for Canada. One last chance to launch a massive one. Oh my goodness me!
Absolutely beautiful. That's another championship record. All-star once again in the throws.
But Bolt's already smiling. Dare we ever doubt him? 19.56. Usain Bolt is just unstoppable.
Thank you for staying with us on NTA Nationwide. The Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu, has inaugurated the National Consultative Committee for Competitiveness in Raw Materials and Product Development in Nigeria. The committee is to effectively coordinate as well as ensure timely prosecution of products and projects that are in line with the national strategy development to harness the potential of the country's research and development institutions. Chimdima Ndubisi reports.
Having studied how countries such as Brazil and India overcame underdevelopment through science and technology occasioned by extensive research and innovation, Nigeria came up with its national strategy for competitiveness in raw materials and products development, securing the approval of the Federal Executive Council for its implementation in May this year. The strategy ensures interaction between research and development institutions, industries, businesses, ministries, departments, and agencies to promote production of high-quality and competitive raw materials and products, as well as their acceptability both locally and internationally, thereby curtailing high demand of foreign products and importation. 4.4 million quality jobs are also expected to be generated.
By reducing just 10.8% of our imports, we will be able to save for our nation as much as 3 trillion naira.
The role of this committee is to therefore see that this national strategy is fully implemented. The minister urged the committee, which was drawn from different research and development institutions, MDAs and industries, to always seek clarification from the Strategy Implementation Task Unit on modalities of implementation. In Abuja, Chimdema Ndubisi, NTA News.
In another development, the largest congregation of Nigerian engineers, Quorum Assembly, has been held in Abuja with a call to government at all levels and professionals to practice engineering according to acceptable and prescribed standards, abiding by the ethics and canons of the profession. Representatives of Acting President and Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu, made this assertion while acknowledging that entrenchment of entrepreneurship culture in engineering practice and boosting of manufacturing sector will serve as catalyst for holistic infrastructural and industrial development. Science correspondent Kieran Umayo reports.
The Quorum Assembly provides a unique opportunity for the engineering family and other stakeholders to network and reflect on topical issues impacting the practice and contribution of engineering personnel to national development.
This administration is working very hard to place the engineering family at the center of national development.
Governor Tanko Almakora of Nasarawa State noted that the problems bedeviling the engineering sector is inefficiency, lack of expertise and integrity resulting from unethical practices by some professionals.
It is my conviction that this occasion will provide stakeholders the desired opportunity to brainstorm on the gamut of issues associated with entrepreneurship, manufacturing, and indeed construction, which is the core mandate of the engineering profession.
President of Koren, Engineer Kashimali, told his fellow professionals that Koren has made progress in the new regulation on licensing of engineering firms, consulting and engineering contracting, as well as manufacturing, production, vendoring of engineering machines, equipment, plant and materials.
Desirous of raising the profile of engineering education in Nigeria and indeed in Africa in the long run, the Council decided to benchmark Nigerian engineering qualifications against those of nations with high international standards.
The theme of this year is entrepreneurship and manufacturing in Nigeria, challenges and opportunities for a better future. Kurian Umayo, NTA News.
The people of Amakwa village in Ozubulu in Ekosigo local government area of Anambra State are yet to get over the shock of the attack on St. Philip's Catholic Church. Meanwhile, the federal government has given assurance that the perpetrators of the crime would be brought to justice. Anambra State Commissioner for Information, Tony Emecheta, earlier joined us via Skype from Oka to give us a situation report to the massacre.
We are in a large dose of trauma. Our people remain in shock over the Sunday morning tragedy. In the immediate community at Ozobolo, the trauma is very strong. There are a lot of families in tears, as you can imagine. And the reality is dawning on us quite rapidly. We are beginning to contemplate burials. I mean, you would assume that anybody going into a church at that time of the day is going to worship, especially because a service is going on at the point in time. Even if you put scanners on the door, how many doors will you do so at?
Minister of Interior Abdurrahman Dambazo has restated the imperative of intelligence sharing by the security agencies through interagency collaboration. The minister stated this during an interactive session with participants of the Nigerian Army War College course. He noted that global affiliation of criminal organizations such as terrorist groups in the 21st century should be seen as a wake-up call for security agencies to depart from the tradition of the past and embrace contemporary tactics. Africa's development depends on regional cooperation as lawyers from the continent converge on Port Harcourt. Dibabari brings us this and more reports from Port Harcourt. It's over to you, Dibabari.
Good evening, Elizabeth, and welcome to Port Harcourt. The chairman of the House Committee on Banking and Finance, Sir Jones Onyeyeri, has called for the creation of a Financial Services Commission if Nigeria's economic challenges and the system where monetary and fiscal bodies work at cross-purpose must end. He was speaking in Port Harcourt at the opening of a 3-day retreat for members of the House of Representatives Committee on Banking and Currency. Karina Igoniko reports.
The retreat, apart from the members of the House Committee on Banking and Finance, is also being attended by the Central Bank's key stakeholders, including controllers of the CBN in the South-South zone of the country. The aim is to deepen the understanding of the Assembly members on issues of foreign exchange management and economic diversification. Chairman House Committee on Banking and Finance, Sir Jones Chukwudi Onyeriri. From all indications, is not happy with a lot of economic issues, including the benchmark monetary policy rate, which he says has remained at 14% for too long, lending rate at 25%, and the small and medium enterprises have no access to credit.
That quantum of money that was plowed into the banking system should have actually been given to development financial institutions, BOI, BOA, Nexim Bank. It would have been more beneficial because it will come a single-digit rate and then it will be accessible to SMEs. And that would have helped to have a huge impact on our GDP.
For us at this difficult time is to achieve a balance between growth and containing inflation. With the focus that we have, yes, we will go back to single-digit once the economy picks up.
Resource persons drawn from the universities, the Apex Bank, and the private sector will be taking the assembly members on a lot of issues, including reserve management and legislative oversight, deepening the collaborative relationship. In Port Harcourt, Karina Igonikon, NTA News.
Legal practitioners in Africa under the urges of African Bar Association are brainstorming 4 days in Port Harcourt towards reviewing the legal and regulatory framework for doing business in the continent with a view to preferring best economic enhancing policies that will boost trade across Africa. Kingsley Amajiri was at the opening ceremony of African Bar Association 2017 conference, which was declared open by River State Governor Nyesom Wike.
The African Bar Association, AFBA, established in 1971, has been the voice of legal practitioners in Africa. However, since 1999, it has been in a sleepy state until its rebirth in 2016. At the heart of AFBA leadership is the realization of the key role African lawyers have to play towards even development across Africa.
Before now, the story of Africa was really told in commonly held stereotypes of poverty, hunger, violence, and hopelessness.
The situation has not changed much. There is little beneficiation and validation. So the bulk of what Africa produces is still being exported raw.
It's time for us lawyers to come together and put our acts together and to join the politicians and all that to ensure that Africa is given its right of place.
As African lawyers, as African Bar Association, we should be fearless.
Based on natural resources, Africa should be the leading continent with terms of development.
Former President of Tanzania, governors of Rivers and Sokoto State are among dignitaries at the opening ceremony of the conference. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amajiri, NTA News.
The International Coordinator of Willing Women Worldwide, Dr. Mrs. Laide Okafo, has enjoined women from all walks of life to join in praying for the nation and all families. She made the call during the opening ceremony of the 17th International Women's Prayer and Leadership Conference at the City of Refuge, Abara, Iche, in River State. Emilia Cosmas was there for NTA News.
The Willing Women Worldwide Conference is a platform in which ordinary, God-fearing, and spirit-led women gather annually in August to pour out their hearts to God in prayer and to fulfill God's agenda on earth. This year's theme is "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done."
And when nations come, they know the mind of God and they take it back to their nations and get their nations to experience it.
It has built me spiritually. It has improved my intercession.
Because of the impact of last year's conference, I encourage 3 of my national leaders to come to this conference.
To intercede again, as I said, for the family, for the church, for the nations, and hear God's leading and direction for
understand his move, the move of the Holy Spirit, and for me to acquire more knowledge and empowerment.
Other participants said they are expecting great transformations in their lives, families, and the nation by the end of the program. In Port Harcourt, Emilia Cosmas, NTA News.
And as our contribution from Port Harcourt is back to Elizabeth for the rest of the news. Good evening.
Thank you, Dibabari. The Nigeria Police Force has reiterated its commitment to ensure that cases involving child victims or juvenile witnesses will be handled in a child-friendly manner that recognizes the child's inherent vulnerability. The Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, made the pledge at the inauguration of a prototype building of specialized children's police unit in Abuja. Lydia Sampson has the report.
Children at times experience trauma during justice process or stigmatization within the community. As part of efforts to preserve the child's welfare, dignity, and support the child's continued development, rehabilitation, and reintegration, the need for a special unit becomes imperative. It is in the light of this that the European Union, UNODC, and UNICEF, as well as other partners, stepped in with a prototype children police unit to help address the alarming statistics of 6 out of 10 Nigerian children who suffer diverse forms of violence.
My administration is committed to giving you every needed support you might always need on your course of promoting and protecting the rights of every child as fundamentally enshrined.
For ACP Margaret Ochala, first gender coordinator and advisor, though an onerous task, the harmonization of all units handling gender and children cases to one in the police is a landmark achievement which makes it easier to articulate standard operating procedures. The international development partners say now is the time for all states to domesticate the child right out. This, they say, will help fast-track Nigeria's projection of eradicating violence against children by 2030.
I think it is important to recognize that when we have any segment of your population that you are talking about statistics of over 60% being faced with violence is indeed something that I will classify as a critical challenge that requires urgent intervention.
No longer should our behavior not conform with being able to welcome and give the children the specialized care that they need.
They are unanimous that it is time to provide children the needed access to tell their stories and be heard. They had, however, cautioned that child offenders should not be treated with the objective of punishment but correction. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
Talking sports now, Nigeria Rugby Football Federation set to develop nationwide league as action continues at the World Athletics Championships in London. Kene Babudike brings us details of this and more on Sports Update.
The National Assembly will soon formulate a law that will compel corporate organizations in Nigeria to invest in the development of sports in the country. Shehu Adamu reports that a member of the House of Representatives Committee on Sports, Abubakar Damburan Nuhu, disclosed this in Kano during the presentation of football kit and cash donation to 1,000 local football teams from 19 northern states, sponsored by Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso.
The entire sport in Nigeria need support in terms of funding. And you know that government, their hand is tight. We have just little amount of the money which we have for us to do other things.
Following their inauguration by Minister of Youth and Sports Development Solomon Dalung in Abuja on July 21, the board of Nigeria Rugby Football Federation has set a mandate of developing a nationwide league managed by internationally certified experts over the next 4 years. President of the Federation, Kelechi Abagu, made this known after the inaugural board meeting in Abuja, stating that efforts have been made to reach out to rugby administrators and players in an attempt to avert the looming ban on Nigeria by Rugby Afrique. Action continues in the 2017 IAAF World Athletics Championships in London, with Nigeria failing to reach the final of the women's 400 meters event on day 4.
Well, what looked like would have been a dramatic finish, doesn't it?
Jamaica's Omar McLeod won the 110 meters hurdles gold in 13.04 seconds, beating defending champion Sergei Shubenko, who took silver, while Balázs Bajy of Hungary won the bronze medal. Meanwhile, Mo Farah will aim to defend his 5,000 meters title midweek as live broadcast of the championships continues on the NTA Sports channel. With Sports Update, Kenem Ima Abodike, NTA News.
Before we go, a quick reminder that you can watch all our stories and much more when you log on to our website, www.nta.ng. And that's it on Nationwide for today. We thank you for watching.